Jeffy just said Rand is ready, and I said, oh, I know he's ready. He's ready for more than this interview. He's ready to be the president of the United States. Senator Rand Paul is with us, and we want to talk. He's releasing his budget today, but we also want to talk to him a little bit about the path to citizenship that he talked about yesterday. Welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, Glenn. You know, that with that intro music, people are going to think you're hip if you're not careful.
Well, I know. No, believe me. Then they see me and they're like, no chance. No chance. Senator, let's talk about, first let me talk about your immigration reform plan because, you know, I personally think I can hear in this reasonable stuff. We are not going to be able to deport, you know, but that doesn't stop self-deportation. And you've also said we're not going to deport, but I won't even talk about a path to citizenship until the border is secure, which I think is totally reasonable. Help me out here, though, on path to citizenship, because that is a red light for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was misreported yesterday because in my speech to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, it never came up. The word citizenship, it's funny, somebody looked through my speech and they said, yeah, the only time you mentioned citizens when you said when you were a teenager you were not a model citizen. And I said, well, that's true. When I was a teenager, I wasn't always a model citizen. We didn't mention citizenship, but what my amendment is called is trust but verify, which means that in the past, we've been snookered into doing immigration reform with the promise that border security is going to come later. So I think conservatives, if they want conservatives to be part of this and if they want us to support immigration reform, we have to have a guarantee. We have to have a verifiable guarantee of border security. So in my amendment, what has to happen is each year there are certain border security targets that have to be met. An investigator general looks at this, the Border Patrol looks at this, does a report. We're going to have the governors of each of the border states look at this as well, and then that report comes back and has to be voted on. The big difference is it has to be voted on by Congress. The bipartisan commission is saying, oh, the president will issue a report, but that to me means a rubber stamp and not much. So ours is mostly about ensuring border security. As far as path to citizenship, we don't want to create any new path to citizenship. The only thing new is we're saying that if you're here and you've been here and you're working and you want to work and you don't want to get welfare, we'll give you a work visa. If you're here and you have a work visa, you can get in the same line that already exists for citizenship. This isn't a new line. This is like the same line if you're in Mexico City.
So wait, I can stop you here. Why is this being reported the way it is? Because that is not there. I don't think there's a soul.
That's not the way it sounded.
That is not the way it is being reported. That's not the way it is sounding. And that is. And what they're trying to do, what they're trying to do is make it sound like you're saying, open up the borders. Everybody's going to be a citizen.
Absolutely not. You know, one of the things I repeat in my speeches all the time is Milton Friedman's statement. You can't have open borders in a welfare state. And we've got the welfare state, so you do have to have a secure border. You also have to have a secure border for national security reasons. The interesting thing is the media completely misses this. My amendment is for the conservatives who do want some kind of reform because most of us won't vote for any kind of reform unless there is a guarantee that the border is going to be secure and that we get to vote that it's secure.
We have serious problems. First of all, the door to citizenship is too narrow. It's not that it's open. They're coming through the windows, not through the door. So the door is too narrow. We have to make the path to citizenship to come in to this country from another place easier because we want new people to come. It replenishes us and it makes those of us who have forgotten what it's like to be an American or what an honor it is to be an American, it refreshes that. It's important. But nobody trusts anybody in Washington on the border because they all say they're going to do something and they don't.
And here's an example. Most of the people who are here illegally because legal immigration is not working. 65,000 work permits were given for agricultural workers, but 1 million workers came in to pick crops last year. So to make that work, you've got to fix the agricultural work visa program. But the biggest thing I enjoyed about my speech yesterday is I got to recite some poetry for my wife. There's a poet by the name of Pablo Neruda. He has a poem that says, if you forget me. And it's a great poem, and I don't get to recite poetry very often.
Well,
so I
yeah,
told my
I mean,
wife
would you
when I
like
talked
to-
to her, got some poetry for you.
I could turn down the lights. We could light a candle, and you could recite some if you'd like. I mean, it's a little uncomfortable, but I mean, whatever. All right, your budget plan is being released today.
Yes, we're going to balance the budget in 5 years. We do it by downsizing government, basically sending a lot of powers and money back to the states, and the responsibility for education, which has always been a state function, send it back to the states.
That's half the time, by the way, of Paul Ryan's plans, which is great. But so, how much are you cutting from the budget now?
Well, hang on, just let me preface this. What Paul Ryan, which everybody I guess is touting for some reason, and the press is saying is draconian. What Paul Ryan is doing is he's taking what we had as a budget in 2002. Remember, that's at the height of the September 11th. We're going to war and everything else. We gotta have the Department of Homeland Security. He's taking that budget of 2002 and he's doubling it, and then adding 3.4% increases per year over the next 10 years. They call that draconian. What is yours?
The Ryan budget goes from a growth of government of 5% a year to a growth of government of 3.4% a year. So government still grows under his. In ours, we go ahead and eliminate some departments. We eliminate Department of Education, most of Department of Energy, most of Department of Commerce.
So hold on. Wait. Hold on. Talk me into this just a little bit. I'm barely undressed. My gosh. Whew. Let's start again. Lower the lights. You don't need poetry. We are starting with the Department of Education, and then we're going where? Sexy man, where do we go next?
What we do is we take a lot of things, like Department of Energy. I kind of figured that some of the richest people in the world, the Kennedy family, the Kaiser family, don't need loans from the federal government. So I think the Department of Energy loans to Solyndra and BrightSource and all these millionaires who are getting loans from the government, why don't we just eliminate that?
Oh, my God.
Why don't we eliminate the plane trips where we're sending corporate CEOs around the world to make business deals for them when the average CEO makes about $7 million a year? Why does the American taxpayer have to fly them around on U.S. government jets?
Okay. All right. Now where? Go ahead.
Well, basically, Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Commerce, and a lot of Department of Commerce is corporate welfare. And I think we as Republicans need to show that we're not the party of just big business. We're the party who says, you know what, we're going to cut government waste, even if it helps, rich business friends of ours, and not be just this crony type of government. And then housing and urban development really has torn down more houses than it's built. The government can be involved, but I think at a local level, probably Habitat for Humanity has done more for building houses than HUD has done in its entire existence.
Is there more? I mean, you had me at hello. I'm fine here. Is there more?
Well, we go ahead and we fix Social Security and Medicare.
How?
We do it by means testing, gradually raising the age, and then with Medicare, we allow every senior citizen to have the same health plan that Congress has. And by doing that, it saves $1 trillion over 10 years, and it also allows us to have a sustainable entitlement program. It basically fixes Social Security for 75 years. And then if that's not enough for you, Glenn, we have one more thing. We do a flat income tax of 17%, which gives a $600 billion stimulus to the economy and allows for, we estimate somewhere between 8 and 12 million new jobs.
So flat for everybody, all incomes?
Yeah, there'd be an exemption for the first $50,000, so there still would be a graduated income tax in the sense that those who make 50 or less wouldn't pay an income tax, and then those above that would be paying 17%. But if you exempt your first 50, if you're in the moderate middle class to upper class, let's say you make 200, you're paying 17% of 150.
I
so
will
really
tell you that
very reasonable rate.
If this would have been Romney's plan, we would be calling him president today. This is between what you just said about immigration and what you're saying here. Yeah, I personally don't think you're going to get slaughtered in the press. You're going to get slaughtered by the progressive Republicans. You're going to get slaughtered by everybody. Anybody, because look at how many people lose their power here. I mean, this is the kind of thinking that America needs. If you don't want to be Cyprus and you don't want to be Greece and you don't want to be Egypt in the end, this is the kind of thinking that has to happen. This would
the real problem,
turbo.
You know, the reason why we're not getting to this is so many Republicans are trapped into this idea that tax reform has to be revenue neutral. I want tax reform to leave more money in the hands of those who earned it and more money in the states and with the people, because that's the only economic stimulus that's ever worked, and that's leaving money in the hands of the people who earn it.
Last week you introduced a bill that would ban the EPA's overseas expenditures. What is the progress on this?
We haven't gotten very far on it yet, but we are in favor of it. You know, I think we spent $25 million in China last year with the EPA money, so your money. But we do a lot of wasteful things around the world, and you know, the EPA being overseas is just one of the ridiculous things we do. You know, we've been still fighting all these crazy studies. You know, menu on Mars, goldfish studies, roll-up beef jerky, you name it. The government's in it. And the biggest thing that really has resonated with people, though, is when the president canceled the White House tours, we came out with a statement that we found it incredibly absurd that he found $250 million to send to President Morsi in Egypt. At the same time, he can't have White House tours.
Well, you know what? I have to tell you, though. I mean, if we don't have White House tours, I mean, quite honestly, I'm not excited about sending my kids to Washington to see any of it anyway. They can learn about it probably better than me by going, from me than going to any tour right now. All of Washington is a sewer system, it feels like at times. And if that's what it takes to get us back on track, but that is so ridiculous. Now they had a St. Patty's Day party at the White House, but they're going to cancel the Easter egg hunt. And if they think that this is going to be, I mean, I love this. The media and everybody is trying to make this into a big deal, and they're wasting time on Capitol Hill to get those things reinstated. Why? Are you kidding me? The president says he doesn't have time to enforce the laws, on pot, so we're going to put ourselves into some sort of constitutional crisis where, whose law do you enforce? Do we enforce all of the federal laws, some of the federal laws, none of the federal laws? Well, he didn't get into that, and he's arguing about the stupid Easter egg roll.
Here's the thing, Glenn. He's releasing criminals that were in captivity, that were immigrants, that were felons. So he's releasing these criminals because he says he's saving money. But the federal government last year had $117 billion that was unaccounted for, improperly spent. They're not exactly sure where it went. They say that the Defense Department or the Pentagon, $25 billion could be saved just simply by doing an audit. They say $7 billion in the Pentagon is spent on things that have nothing to do with the military or national defense. And yet he can't, says he doesn't have enough money to keep people in prison. So it's inexcusable. But I think it's backfiring on it. I think the American people are going to see that he's playing games and letting go criminals, and I think he's going to have repercussions for that.
Real quick, because I have another important question for you, but real quick, what do you do with the DHS? Is there anything that happens to, I mean, I'm concerned about the growth of the DHS. As I know you are.
You mean after we privatize the TSA?
Good. Okay, that's enough said. All right. Here's the one thing that I don't know if it is on your radar, and it should be. This administration is now trying to deport a family that has asked for political asylum and won in court. This administration is taking them back to court. To say that they don't deserve political asylum. They live in Germany. They're evangelicals. I think they don't live in Kentucky. I think they live in Tennessee. And all they were trying to do was homeschool their children in Germany. But there is a law done by the Nazis. It's an Adolf Hitler law that was never removed from the book that says you cannot homeschool your kids. They were going to take their kids away. So they moved here to the United States. They did it the right way. And they asked for political asylum. They won in court, and this administration is now arguing in court that homeschooling your children is not a basic human right.
Well, I'm a big fan of homeschooling, and you've just given me an idea. I think maybe we'll see if we can file an amicus or a friend of the court on their behalf and see if we can get involved with that, because one member of my staff back in the 70s when he was a kid was homeschooled, and his parents in Kentucky were given a year in prison for homeschooling. And while their case was still pending the appeal, we got the law changed in Kentucky. So in the 1970s, it was illegal to homeschool in much of America, but we've changed those laws. And if the president thinks that homeschooling is something that can keep you out of the country, we're going to make sure he knows otherwise.
Thank you very much. Well, my office will get you all the information on that, Senator. Senator Rand Paul, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you on, sir. And it is you are.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for being willing to stand up and take the heat. We're not going to agree on everything all the time, but thank you for standing. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, man.
You bet. Bye-bye.